Okay, so I think it's recording now, but I call this meeting into order at 6:06 p.m. Um, in the participants, I recognize that um, all of our finance board members, so Devin, Fiona, Imani, Rahman, and I, and I believe I was here at one point, but okay. So all
Hold
five.
on 1 second. I'm sorry, I have to go real quick.
Okay. So, and our ex officio members, that would be Candace, Courtney, and Tori, and the people who are being confirmed today, so that would be Amina, Mahira, and Usman, are all present. So, is there a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
Motion to approve the agenda on July 23rd, 2021. Oh, it's
22nd.
just
Second
July
that
20
motion.
2022 for the US. I'm so sorry.
Any seconds?
I second that motion.
Perfect. Any objections? Hearing no objections, the agenda for today has been approved for, what is it, July 22nd, 2021. So going into the meeting minutes, which I believe should be right here. Okay, I'm just gonna scroll through it real quick. If I should go any slower or if I need to stop, just let me know, but I'm just gonna keep on scrolling.
Wait, just to confirm, you sent us the the agenda like last night
I should have sent it to you, I believe, 2 nights ago, but yeah.
or 2 nights ago?
And the meeting minutes should be linked onto the meeting agenda, so you should be able to access both.
Oh, I see it. Okay,
Perfect.
thank you.
Okay. I'm just gonna scroll. Are there any motions to approve the meeting minutes from what was it, June 26th, 2021?
I motion to approve the meeting minutes for June 26th, 2021.
Seconds?
I second the
Second.
motion.
Perfect. Any objections? Hearing no objections, the meeting minutes have been approved for June 26th, 2021. And okay, we can move on to our new business. So we have 3 confirmations to get through today. So we have Usman and Mahira as finance board representatives and Amina as the finance board secretary. So we've drafted up some legislation for that. I can pull that up and we can read it before we get into any questioning or discussion. So this is FBL 01-2122. Author is me, sponsors. Yeah. Date of introduction, I guess it should be the 22nd. Let me change that. So there's a confirmation of Usman for SGA Finance Board Representative. Whereas the summer chair of SGA Finance Board, Shruti Ramesh, has the authority to nominate undergraduate students to fill vacant positions on the SGA's Finance Board. And whereas the chair and vice chair have nominated Usman to fill the vacant position of SGA Finance Board representative. And whereas the SGA Finance Board has the responsibility of reviewing and selecting nominees to the position of Finance Board representative by a 2/3 majority in the event of a Finance Board vacancy, as stipulated in the Finance Board procedural rules. Therefore, be it resolved that the Finance Board hereby elects Usman to the position of Finance Board representative for 2021 to 2022 academic year, receiving a prorated stipend of $2,778, subject to the review of the Stipend Review Committee. So, I guess this is where we enter a period of questions.
Point of order.
Yes.
So you can't hi everyone. You can't actually amend this once it's been introduced unless someone moves to amend it. So even though there was a typo, right? What you have to do the correct way is you introduce it, right? And then if there's something that needs to be changed, someone would move to amend the legislation to say this versus that.
Okay. So
right, because you changed the years, right?
right, yeah.
Yeah. So and it's good practice, right? So I would say, so someone needs to move to amend the legislation to correct the years from, was it 2020 to 2021 to
Right.
2021 to 2022. So someone has to move to do that, or motion to do that, and then someone else has to second it, and then you can get general consent for it. So
Okay, perfect.
let's practice it.
Okay. Are there any motions to, I guess I can go back, but are there any motions to amend the years for which the academic, or which I guess the finance board representatives being confirmed for?
I
move
motion sorry.
motion to amend the years for the amendment
Sure.
from 2020. So do I have to say the years?
I guess. I think.
From 2020 to 2021 to 2021 to 2022.
I
Right.
second that motion.
Perfect. Any objections? Hearing and seeing none, I guess now I can change the years. Oops. Nope. Okay. So there. Now we can move into a period of questioning for Usman. So at this point, are there any motions to move to a period of questioning?
I motion to move into a period of questioning, but can we have Usman give us a brief introduction? And also a second, I'm sorry.
Oh, I second that motion.
Thank you.
Any objections? Hearing and seeing none, we can move into a period of questioning, but before we get into that, Usman, could you just give a short introduction of yourself? So like name, pronouns, maybe your year and your major.
Sure. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to meet you all. My name is Usman Diab. My pronouns are he, him. Um, I'm a rising junior at UMBC in the upcoming fall, and I'm a double major in history and political science, and so passionate about SGA. So I can't wait to be a part of the finance board member. So nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Great, thank you. If anyone has, sorry, any questions, please say me in the chat and I can call on you. Imani, go ahead.
Are you at work, Usman?
Yes, I actually work at Chick-fil-A. I didn't get the chance to because the place that I work at, we are kind of like children people, so we don't really have anyone. So they kind of like depended on me when it comes to schedule. So I couldn't like, give up on them. So I was like, hey, I have a meeting that's in at 6, so I'm gonna do my best to attend the meeting and come back to work. But yeah,
That's cool. I used to work at Chick-fil-A too, on my last campus.
Well, I respect your dedication to show up at the meeting despite having to be at work. So yeah, I
Yes.
definitely respect that.
absolutely. It is literally like priority. So I was like, I don't want to miss it. It's something really important that I have like planned out. So I was like, I'm gonna do my best to make sure that I do both at the same time. So yeah.
For sure.
Definitely.
Again, if you have any questions, say me in the chat and I can call on you. Rahman, go ahead.
Hey, Usman, thank you so much for introducing yourself and for being at this meeting while you're at work. It means a lot to all of us. chose to be a finance
Sure,
board rep?
absolutely. So like my whole life, I've always been involved into like this idea of wanting to help people and like more involved and like more so into helping my community and then like the people around me in general. So when I was in high school, like being a finance board member wasn't really a thing. It was just like being involved in SGA and like making sure you are doing the right thing for the school and stuff like that. So when I saw the email about the vacancy for the finance board member, I was like, this is something that I really think I could like excel at. So I was like, I'm definitely gonna give it a try and apply for it because I think I have the potential to give it my all. And especially like with me having the passion of helping people and being able to be there to like show this kind of a idea of making sure that everyone is included in the process of giving everyone like um sort of like a kind of a chance to succeed into what they want to do. So like if you have a club board member that needs some kind of a funding to creating some sort of an event, it's sort of important to like students who are like above them to kind of like help them out, give them the opportunity to do what they want to do. So like my passion into wanting to help people and wanting to make sure that everyone is included, sort of given me the option and the opportunity for me to be a part of the finance board member. That's also like one of the reasons why, because it's something that I have always wanted to do, and making sure that everyone is included and everyone is like being a leader and an inspiration and someone who motivate people to do more is something that I just want to include into this. So I'm really excited to be a part of it. So
That's great. Thank you for that. Any other questions?
I move to end the period of questioning. Is that how we have to do it?
Perfect. Yeah. Um, so are there any seconds for that?
Second.
Any objections? Hearing or seeing none? Um, can
I move to enter into a period of discussion.
Perfect. I guess I forgot what it's called, but like, how do I consult with you, Candace? Like, I mean, just on what Aya has said in the chat.
Yeah, I was answering.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, Aya, you're a full member of the finance board, as is Naila Bonet, so you have all the rights and responsibilities that, well, almost all of the responsibilities that the finance board representatives have, but you get to, yeah, you're a full voting member, so yes, you can make motions.
Thank you. Okay, so any objections to Rahman's motion? Hearing or seeing none, we move into a period of discussion. Again, if anyone has anything to say, please say me in the chat and I'll call on you. I guess I have something to say, but I would just say that based on what we heard from Usman right now, as well as what Rahman and I heard from him during our interview, I would say Usman is a great fit for our board, and I'm really excited obviously, if we're able to confirm him, for him to be part of our board and be part of all of our decisions. Go ahead, Rahman.
Yeah, adding on to that a bit, Usman was actually like the first candidate that Shruti and I interviewed for the vacancy. And after that interview, like our first thought was like, he's in. Just because of how enthusiastic and how passionate he felt about helping people, whether that's through SGA or through Finance Board and things like that. And I believe that he would be an incredible asset to the team. So I highly urge all of you with Trudy to vote for the confirmation.
Sure, yeah. First of all, it was the first thing that I remember, even like remembering a lot, or that helped me make my decision or us come to our decision was Usman's dedication, which we've already like seen an example of today by like him showing up during his work and making this a priority. So that was like one of the biggest things that stood out to me because he was mentioning that he had a job while being a full-time student and like how that was really hard to manage, but at the same time that's made him grow as a time manager as well as like a leader and how he can put these skills towards finance board. So that's something that really stood out to me, and I feel like that's something that's very characteristic and representative of a leader in SGA.
I second everything Shruti just mentioned.
Great. Does anyone else have anything else to add?
I can add a little something about me. I don't know if I'm allowed to, but I was just gonna share like a little bit of what I just did recently for my public history um, community. Because like recently, like a couple of weeks ago, there was this program that UMBC was doing for history majors that came from Howard Community College, and it was like a little something of digesting like race in Baltimore in general. And I felt like it was something that was really important because like we're tasked to create a digital story, and I felt like the digital story that I created for the whole class was something that like brought everyone into a point of a connection, of feeling like a sense of being vulnerable. So I just like wanted to share that as well. If anyone wanna watch the digital story, um, it was published on YouTube. I can drop the link if anyone wants to see it as well. So
Okay, if no one has anything else to add, I would urge someone to bring up a motion to move to a period of voting.
I move to end this period of discussion
Oh, that's true. Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
into a period of voting. I'm sorry.
No, that's right.
As I
Okay.
am.
Okay. Any seconds to combine this and end a period of discussion and enter a period of voting?
I
I
second that
second it.
motion.
Any objections? Hearing or seeing none, we will end our period of discussion and enter our period of voting. For this, I guess we can just say A or nay in the chat. All members of Finance Board right now and Aya as well as Naila Bonet, I think are allowed to vote. So. Candace, do you know if I'm allowed to vote?
So typically the chair, the speaker, does not vote unless there's a need for them to vote because there's a tie.
Okay, perfect. And looking at the chat, there is no need for me to vote. So, congratulations, Usman. So we have 6 representatives for and 0 against, 0 abstaining. I guess 0 not present. And today is 2022, 2020. one?
If pretty sure it'd be one abstaining since you did not vote.
Oh, okay, that's true. Okay, and perfect. Congratulations, Usman. Thank you so much, and we're excited to have you be a part of our board, and we welcome you to our finance board family. Kind of already done.
Point of order. You
Go
have to
ahead.
swear him in.
Oh, yes.
You have
Okay,
to
so
swear him in.
yeah, I have the oath of office open, so yeah. Do I have to end the period of voting, or like, is there like a period that I have to enter for like swearing in, or?
No, you can just swear him in.
Okay, perfect. So Usman, just repeat after me, for the oath. I do solemnly swear, or affirm, wow,
I do solemnly affirm
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of Finance Board Representative
the office of Finance Board Representative
of the UMBC Student Government Association,
of the UMBC Student Government Association,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
promote and defend
promote and defend
the interests and well-being
the interests and well-being
of UMBC's undergraduate students.
of UMBC's undergraduate students.
Yay!
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay. There. So I will send this over. Sure. Okay. So now we move on to the confirmation of Mahira as Finance Board Representative. So going to the legislation again. I already know that I have to make amendments for this, so I can read it out and then we can amend everything. So this is FBL 02-2122, author me, sponsor me and Rahman, and the date of introduction that also needs to be changed. So, confirmation of Mahira for SGA Finance Board Representative. Whereas the summer chair of SGA Finance Board, Shruti Ramesh, has the authority to nominate undergraduate students to fill vacant positions on the SGA Finance Board. And whereas the chair and vice chair have nominated Mahira to fill the vacant position of SGA Finance Board Representative, and whereas the SGA Finance Board has the responsibility of reviewing and selecting nominees to the position of Finance Board Representative by a 2/3 majority in the event of a Finance Board vacancy, as stipulated in the Finance Board procedural rules. Therefore, be it resolved that the Finance Board hereby elects Mahira to the position of Finance Board Representative for the 2020 to 2021 academic year, receiving a prorated stipend of $2,778, subject to the review of the Stipend Review Committee. So there are two amendments that need to be made. So are there any motions to amend the date of introduction?
I move to amend the years to 2021 to 2022 on the amendment.
Okay, second. Any objections? Hearing and seeing none, I shall change the years. And then the date, does that really have to be changed? I don't know. Probably should.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry about that. I didn't
Oh,
realize.
and Mahira. Yep. There you go. Yep.
Thank you. Okay. So, so we need, I guess, a motion to change the spelling of your last name. So, any motions to amend the legislation? Okay, there's that too. Okay.
I second.
Perfect. I'm just gonna change it everywhere. Where is it? There. Sorry about that. I did not realize. and also I guess up here. Okay. Perfect. I think this is done then. So going back through the same process, we can enter a brief period of questioning if there are any motions on the floor.
I move to enter into a period of questioning.
Seconds?
A second.
Okay, perfect. Any objections? Hearing or seeing none, we can move into a period of questioning. So, like we did before, if you have any questions, please write your name or please write me in the chat and I can call on you. Go ahead, Rahman.
Mahira, can you briefly introduce yourself? Just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you chose to become a finance board rep.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Mahira. I'm a rising sophomore, and I go by she, her pronouns, and my major right now is biochemistry. And one of the reasons, so I was on SGA last year, as a freshman, and personally, I think just being at home, and not really having any outlets, talking to people in person. I really found SGA really helpful, especially coming into like a new community. And with that being said, I knew I wanted to continue doing that this year. And so the reason I chose finance board was because in my past leadership roles in high school, I had a lot. I had a lot of say in event planning, funding, working with treasurers, and just coming up with, ways to communicate and build events. And budgeting was a main part of that. And I knew that this would be really close to what I was interested in.
I guess I'll just like quickly call on myself for why at least personally we decided, or personally I thought that Mahira would be a great fit. Like she mentioned, she has a lot of experience in SGA and just leadership in general, and I feel like the leadership qualities that she has are crucial to being a part of SGA, especially finance board. And also, like she mentioned, she was talking about how she has finance related experience, especially in treasury and everything. So with that, she would be able to greatly contribute to our board and help make educated decisions. Go ahead, Ramon.
I guess Shruti and I are going to ask all the questions tonight. I'm kidding. So, Mahira, you've kind of mentioned this during your on your application, actually, but I loved your response to the question. But what is your understanding of the role of the finance board?
So one of the things, so I was part of the first year ambassador program as well, and I chanced to briefly shadow and kind of attend the meetings, and just from there I kind of got the idea of how, the finance board runs and how, they have this schedule, and it's kind of different than anything I've seen before, being part of high school organizations, and there's kind of this professional aspect to UMBC's finance board that I really enjoyed. Um, but I think the flyer that was sent out, that's what I kind of studied. And I know I have a lot to learn, but I'm really excited to get into it because I'm the type of person who likes a schedule, who likes to like have things assigned and, go through with that. And that is kind of one of the things that also stood out to me.
I move to end this period of questioning and enter into a period of discussion.
Perfect.
I
Any
second that.
seconds? Great. I think I heard a second. Yeah, there. So any objections? Hearing or seeing none, no objections. We can move into a period of discussion. Again, if you have anything to say, please write me in the chat and I can call on you. Also, not to call you out, Usman, but you can also add or be a part, I guess, of our discussions. Go ahead, Usman.
Hi, Mahira. It's so nice to meet you. I just wanted to ask, uh, so like beside SGA, like was there any kind of like group involvement that you were involved way back in your freshman year?
Just one quick point. I don't think we can ask questions during a discussion because it's just meant to be between all the finance board members. But I guess if Mahira wants to answer, I guess you can, maybe?
Should I answer?
Can you
Or
repeat your question? Because I didn't hear all of it.
Sure. I was just asking like if there was like any kind of involvement beside SGA that she was doing prior her freshman year.
and am I allowed to answer?
I say maybe just go for it, but just as a point to note, during a period of discussion, it's just among finance board members. But I guess for now we can continue with your response.
Yeah. So freshman year I was involved. So my first semester I really wanted to use it to kind of, find my interests. So I was involved in Red Cross, Cancer Awareness Society, Predental, everything that I thought would interest me. I went to meetings, and then kind of my second semester is where um, I narrowed it down and kind of focused on like what I was going to, go through for the rest of my years. And that was SGA, um, Red Cross, and Predental Society.
Thank you. So I guess I can just say something really quick, but I personally think Mahir is a great choice for us to confirm as finance board representative. She has a lot of experience in leadership as well as finance, and I feel like that could really help us as a board kind of make decisions, and she could also add a lot of great points to our discussions and decisions.
Yeah, I can also add something. Um, during the period of questions, Mahira has really shown that she's qualified to be a finance board rep and has the significant experiences and the crucial skills that our board can really benefit from. So I'm really excited to work with her, and I'm sure all of us are too.
If we have nothing else to add to our period of discussion, we can move on to a period of voting. Any motions to end our period of discussion and move on to a period of voting?
I move to end this period of discussion and enter into a period of voting.
Any
I
seconds?
second.
Great. Any objections? Hearing and seeing none, we can move on to our period, or we can end our period of discussion, move on to our period of voting. Like we did before, you can write A or nay in the chat, and I'll tally that up and write it down.
Usman, you need to vote. Or let me rephrase. You get to vote.
Perfect. Okay, so we have all 7, and then I'm abstaining, 0 opposed, and 0 not present. And congratulations, we have passed this legislation for Mahira to be our fill our vacancy for finance representative. Okay, what's the date? I forgot.
Hey, congrats, Mahira.
22. Okay, 2021. Let's see. Okay, so I guess we'll just have you repeat the oath of office. So just repeat after me. I do solemnly affirm
I do solemnly affirm
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of Finance Board Representative
the office of Finance Board Representative
of the UMBC Student Government Association
of the UMBC Student Government Association
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
promote and defend
promote and defend
the interests and well-being
the interests and well-being
of UMBC's undergraduate students.
of UMBC's undergraduate students.
Yay, congratulations. Welcome to our Finance Board family. Okay, let's see. I don't know why this won't let me do this. Okay, there. Okay, moving on to our third confirmation of this evening, we have Amina for Finance Board Secretary. So, just knowing what I wrote, I do believe we would need to make some amendments, or at least one amendment, but I will read it out and then we can amend. So, this is FBL 03-2122, author me, sponsor me. Confirmation of Amina as the Finance Board Secretary, whereas the Chair of Finance Board, I guess it has to say summer chair, but whatever, has the authority to appoint members to positions within the Finance Board, and whereas the Finance Board is obligated to record and publish formal meeting minutes each week, therefore be it resolved that the Finance Board hereby confirms Amina to the position of Secretary of the Finance Board during the 2020 to 2021 academic school year, receiving a stipend of $1,010, which will be prorated to reflect their number of quarters officially engaging in SGA business and subject to review of the Stipend Review Committee. So same process. Are there any motions to move to a period of questioning?
I motion to move to a period of questioning.
Any seconds?
I second.
Any objections? Here, seeing none, we can move to a period of questioning. Again. Oh, right, sorry. Amendment. Forgot about that. Any motions to, I guess we're, okay, whatever. Any motions to amend the legislation to fix the years?
I motion to amend the fixation of the years on the amendment.
Second.
Thank you. Any objections? Oh, date of introduction as well. Right. Okay. We will get to that. Since there are no objections, I shall change the years. Date of introduction. Okay, so any motions to amend the date of introduction?
I move to amend the date of introduction.
Seconds?
I second.
Any objections? Hearing or seeing none, I will change that. Okay. Now going back to the period of questioning. If there are any questions, please write me in the chat and I can call on you. Go ahead, Usman.
Sure. So, as a finance board secretary, what do you hope to bring to the UMBC community?
I guess I would like to bring my own perspectives on things and just like my own experiences that I've gone through. And yeah, so that's pretty much.
Go ahead, Rahman.
Yeah, Amina, it's a pleasure to meet you again. What can you speak a little bit about your past leadership experience?
So yeah, I am currently on PAXA board and I'm their events coordinator. And I also run an organization called Brighten a Day Baltimore. And what they basically do is like during the COVID pandemic, what we did was that we made cards and care packages so like frontline workers, nursing homes. And with that, I just had to like budget or like, contact people to like organize like like bringing the cards and what like nursing homes we're going to work with. So those were the two things that I did. And I was also a house leader of FIDE, which is like a medical fraternity. And yeah.
I guess I have a question, kind of backwards, but could you just introduce yourself? So like again, name, pronouns, major, year, and yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a rising junior. My name is sorry, I'm start off with my name. My name is Amina Musa. I'm a rising junior. My major is biology and I'm minoring in social welfare. And my pronouns are she and her.
Thank you. Go ahead, Fiona.
Yeah, so I can ask a question. So as you know, being a finance board representative calls for a lot of teamwork. So what are your experiences with working in a team setting, and what do you think is the best way to overcome a difference in opinion?
So I working in teamwork,
Did
like
my
so I work
Wi-Fi
with
go out?
I'm sorry. So I work with my e-board on with Brighten a Day Baltimore. I'm so sorry. Can you please ask the question one more time?
Yeah, sure. So what are your experiences with working in a team setting, and what do you think is the best way to overcome a difference in opinion?
Okay, so my experience with working with a team is like with Brighten a Day, like our e-board, like there's different people and they all have their different views. So like a way to overcome that is, you like first you need to be open to listening to what they believe in and what like what they want to do. And if you don't necessarily agree with what they have to say, you could just talk to them directly and like try to find like a middle point on like so that there's you're taking in like you're taking in consideration what they have to say but also like your own views as well.
Any questions? Are there any motions to end our period of questioning? Or if anyone has anything else, if you need a minute or two, you can also say that. But if there are any motions to end this period of questioning and move to a period of discussion, please bring it up to the floor.
I move to end this period of questioning and enter into a period of voting.
Discussion.
Oh, discussion. Sorry.
Perfect. Okay. Seconds?
I second that motion.
I second.
Thank you. Any objections? Hearing or seeing none, we move into a period of discussion. That's the word. Again, if there's anything you want to say, please say something in the chat like me and I can call on you. But I guess kind of going off what we did for the last two, going off of the experience that I had from interviewing Amina, I realized that she's really passionate about making a change in the community. And having that passion is what helps a lot of us, like, kind of get through being a part of this and also have a change in the community. And also, from what I was able to discuss with her, she was talking about how she has organizational skills and leadership skills that will greatly help her as a finance board secretary. Rahman, is there anything you want to add? Unless you don't.
Thank you, Shruti. So I knew Amina from ASB, Alternative Spring Break. It's like a week-long thing where we just explored a lot of like the social change issues in the UMBC community and the larger Baltimore communities. But one of the most significant things that I've learned about Amina during ASB and also during her interview, and I think almost in every conversation I've had with her, is her passion to serve the community. And she mentioned in her interview that one of the main gateways to kind of create change at UMBC is through SGA. And just the fact that she recognizes the significance of SGA and of her role as secretary just means a lot to me. And I highly urge all of you to vote for. She's quite passionate about the role, and I think she's the best person for the job.
Does anyone have anything else to add to our period of discussion? Go ahead, Devin.
Yeah, I liked what Amina had to say about like what her goals are and what she like wanted to accomplish. Like I definitely resonated with her saying that like she wanted to make a change into the community. I think that was like one of my like primal goals. Just like in not in just SGA alone, just like from my past experiences as well. So that's definitely something I um, like held on to when she was telling me about her goals and stuff. And I think she's definitely a good candidate for this job. And I'm glad that she told us about her goals and what she wants to do. And I definitely am excited for what is going to happen in the fall.
Right. Thank you, Devin. If there are no other points to be made in our period of discussion, are there any motions to end this period of discussion and enter a period of voting?
I motion to end this period of discussion.
Perfect. Any seconds?
Second.
Thank you. Any objections? Hearing or seeing none, we will move to our period of voting. Like we've done for the last two confirmations, just say A or nay in the chat. And just as a reminder, both Usman and Mahira should or can vote. Yeah, that's the word. Okay, wait, do we have everyone? I've already lost count. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think we do. So that would be 8, 4, 0. Oh my god, 0 opposed, 1 abstaining. And 0 not present. And yay, we've passed our legislation and I guess are confirming Amina for Finance Board Secretary. So the date is 2021. It's my name. Oh my god. 07, 22, 2020. And then approve. Okay, so is there an oath for this, Candace? It would just be changed to Finance Board Secretary, right?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Great. I'm gonna just repeat after me. I do solemnly affirm
I do solemnly affirm
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of Finance Board Secretary. Okay. Secretary
the office of Finance Board Secretary
of the UMBC Student Government Association
of the UMBC Student Government Association
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
promote and defend the interests and well-being
the interests and well-being
of UMBC's undergraduate students.
of UMBC's undergraduate students.
Perfect. Good job. Congratulations. We're so excited to have you and welcome you to our Finance Board family. I've apparently coined that term, so that's really fun. Okay, I guess since we are done with all 3 of our confirmations, we can move on to the last point in our points of new business. So, I guess to enter a period of discussion, or I guess I can give a little bit of background about SOAR. This was introduced last year during last year's board. And SOAR basically is the student organization atypical reward. It's kind of like a stimulus-esque reward that is given out to student organizations to help them start up, especially after last year and everything being online and not that easily connectable to like the newer students. So this is something us as Finance Board are able to do to help the student organizations that are there and ultimately help the student population by making the organizations much more easily accessible, if that makes sense. Does anyone have anything else to add before we move to a period of discussioning, like about SOAR? Okay, go ahead, Candace.
I would add that it has been budgeted for, and it does need to be implemented, and that this discussion is about that, right? Like it says parameters of. So the implementation of it, I have some, when we get more to the period of discussion, I have some more points, but that's, it is budgeted. So you don't have to decide how much SOAR will be. That has, the whole pot has already been decided. So that is a point to note.
Okay, thank you. So kind of going off of that, we can enter a period of discussion if there are any motions to enter a period of discussion. Any motions?
I motion to enter a period of discussion.
Seconds?
Second.
Thank you. Any objections? Hearing or seeing no objections, we can enter a period of discussion about SOAR. Like Candace just mentioned, what we're basically doing is discussing the parameters around it. So some parameters to keep in mind are like, how do we know what type of or which organizations are able to receive this reward? How long do they have to use it? Are there any guidelines on what they can use it for, what they can't use it for? So I believe that Candace can elaborate a bit more on that, but yeah. Go ahead, Candace.
Okay. So, so to give some context around like how student orgs get their money, which will inform part of this conversation, right? So as many of you know, student organizations have carryover accounts, which is basically like a bank account with UMBC where they can put their money and UMBC manages it and they can get money, pay for stuff, and like it gets put on a UMBC credit card and gets delivered to UMBC and all that kind of stuff. So the person who does all of that purchasing and all of that management for student orgs, his name is David Royer, and he works closely with SGA as well. He does all your payroll. He does all your like expenses. Like anytime SGA wants to buy something, it goes through David Royer. Like so, he does a lot for SGA and for student orgs. And so, and my kids are screaming. Sorry. So I met with David. I think I met. Hold on. Okay, nice kid. This is back. So I met with David last week, maybe. It's all blurs together. So I met with David to talk with him about what would be of benefit to him as the person who is going to have to, for lack of a better phrasing, deal with and manage whatever finance board decides, right? He is going to be the person who has to do it. And he already has a lot of things going on. And so I wanted to get a sense from him what might, for this conversation, to try and inform some of it, what might be useful, right? And what might be feasible for him and not be super overwhelming. And so the main points that he gave were that he would really like it if student org had until the end of the spring semester to spend their money. That is an ask that he has for the group. He would be appreciative of some sort of tracking sheet that would be created for him, so that he could track when student orgs are spending out of that pot and how much money they have. And then the third point that he said, which Shruti already named, is that if there could be some really clear parameters given around what student orgs can spend money on and what they can't spend money on. I'll give you an example, right? So that probably would fit this category of something that you need to like communicate to orgs that they probably, that I would advise they probably shouldn't buy with this money. So as a state entity, because that's what we are, right? We operate within a state organization. As a state entity, there are things that we could buy, right? We could buy computers, we could buy phones, we could buy cameras, but all of that stuff has to be tracked and barcoded, and you got to know who has it. My computer's got a barcode on the bottom of it. And so when student orgs, if they were to buy stuff with SJ money, such as computers or a camera or something like that, SJ would technically have to track that. And you don't necessarily have the capacity to track, 30 computers, 45 cameras if student orgs are asking for and spending money on that stuff. So there may be some things that technically the state can purchase, but that from an operational place would be extremely difficult for you all to manage, equipment being one of them. There are also things that the state cannot, that typically are not allowed to be bought with state funds. Gift cards, alcohol. We typically don't buy alcohol with state funds. We don't buy alcohol with state funds. Let me back that up. Not typically. There's a sort of list, right? So he would really appreciate if that was that list, right, of pertinent things that cannot be bought, as well as any other things that might be difficult for for SGA or him to manage, be communicated by SGA, by the finance board, once this pot is this award is communicated to student orgs, because they don't know that this is coming and that they have this money. So it'll be a good thing to push out to them, because they don't know. And that's just sort of the 3 asks that he has made for you all to consider. So that is all I have right now.
Thank you for that, Candace. Yeah, so if anyone has anything to say again, write me in the chat and I'll call on you. Go ahead, Amani.
So what for this award? So what is the limit of is there a limit for how many organizations on campus we can give it to? And if so, how many are we allowed to give it to?
May I respond?
Yeah, please.
Sure. So I think one of the things that you all have to decide is whether or not you want to give it to all student organizations, or if you want to give it to like full funding organizations versus limited funding organizations. If you want to give it to all organizations except for club sports, or all that's something you all have to decide. Tori, how many orgs are we at right now? I want to say 215, somewhere abouts there.
Around 205.
205. Okay, thank you very much for the correction. So, and there are pros and cons to like what you can, like what the difference between all of that is, right? But again, there's 205 in total student organizations. Some of them are full funding organizations, some of them are limited funding organizations. And so that point is up for debate amongst the finance board members. In terms of the amount of money that is currently budgeted for this, I want to say it's like $40,000 or $45,000 in total, which sounds like a ton of money. And then you divide it amongst 200 student organizations, and then we're talking about like $200 each org. So, right, like it's that, $45,000. Right, then each org gets $200 approximately. So that, if that's for everybody, right? If all 205 got it, it would be like, again, I gotta find it. Approved budget 2022. In my head, I have it as that. Let's find it. This is student org. $45,000. Yeah. So if you were to say give it to all 205,
around $210.
$209, yeah, 210, 215, something like that. that would be I was saying the word in my head, disponible, like available. That would be available to them. So yeah, if you decided we don't want to give it to limited funding orgs, then that's going to take a certain number of those orgs out of the equation, which would then increase the amount for the rest of the org. So it's about like, what do you want to do with this money? Who do you want to give to?
Mm-hmm.
And then Naila Benet has a question in the chat. I'm going to let Tori or Courtney answer that question if that's okay with the chair.
Go ahead. Yeah, that's perfect.
So fully funded organizations are organizations that do not have any membership requirements on how to join. So if an org requires, and we were kind of just talking about this at the beginning, but if an org requires, let's say, a tryout or an audition to be a member, they're limited funding. This gets a little iffy sometimes, and I brought up the kind of like the example of mock trial. Mock trial does do internal auditions for who goes and competes, but anyone can join the team and join the club. So it's groups that just to be a member, period, have some sort of restriction. So whether that's a GPA restriction, a payment of dues, an audition, a restriction based on gender. So a lot of our fraternities and sororities, those are all limited funding orgs. Club sports are also limited funding because they have a budget through recreation. So that's important to note too. So when we are talking about those, it is sorry, my dog's in the background. It's a mix of fraternities and sororities, club sports who have their own. Not all club sports have tryouts, not all of them. So some of the clubs are open to whoever would like to join, but they do have their own budgets, which is your whole purpose. They get that approved from recreation. Typically, if club sports come through finance board, it's for marketing and merchandise. Um, but also this is also groups like our performing groups. So some of our cultural groups are a little bit limited funding because they have auditions. Our dance groups, the majority of them are. Our a cappella groups are mainly all limited funding. Honors organizations are all limited funding, and some of our service groups because they pay dues as well.
Just a quick question for Tori. Do you have a number of how many limited funded organizations there are versus regular?
I would have to look it up, but off the top of my head, there's 20 club sports, about 20 fraternities and sororities, so that's 40 there. Probably another 10, 15 in there that are just scattered throughout, so probably around 50, 55,
Okay.
give or take. I don't know how many of those disbanded over the past 2 years.
That's yeah. Yeah. Just like a quick point to put out there, just like from my own perspective, we could do something that's along the lines of a higher amount for those who are not limited funded and then a lower amount for those who are limited funded, so or partially funded. So that's something that we could do just to even the scales out maybe. Like that's just my own idea. Well, I guess from what Tori explained, partially funded, like they have their, I guess they have like their own like sort of membership dues and stuff like that that they could fund themselves on, and like they still have ways to like request money. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I don't know if that's right.
I can add a little bit of context there. So yes and no to Nayla Benet's question. If they are limited funding, wouldn't they need it more? Some of them, yes, some of them, no. So fraternities and sororities they all have dues. So like they have their own source of kind of income from their members. Club sports are taken care of, but those ones like our performing groups would need it a little bit more. They don't necessarily pay dues, but they have tryouts and auditions. So like our a cappella groups, our dance groups, some of those service organizations don't necessarily have that same benefit as some of our other limited funding groups by collecting dues. So they don't get supported as much as some of those other organizations. So it really depends on which category you're talking about.
So potentially, I guess we could like stipulate like certain partially funded, like Tori was pointing out, maybe the sororities and club sports. That's a possibility that we could be like, maybe they don't need as much. Only to make, I mean, this is just my opinion, just to like have a more significant amount of money that goes towards the student orgs rather than like a $200. Is there a way that we can measure need? Okay, go ahead, Candace.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be my question. Is there a way, how do you determine a need? It's very objective, right? Like, um,
Imani,
a student or
okay, go ahead.
that's yeah, a student org may have $20 in their bank in their carryover account, but they may not even need that $20. Like, just they've had it there for 6 years, right? And they don't need money to operate. But a student org may have $1,000 in their bank account or their carryover account, gosh, and and have a high need for more money because of an event they're planning or because of a speaker they want to have. So it feels it feels hard for me to figure out how you would objectively evaluate a need because they all are so different. Even with your limited funding orgs, right? Your fraternities and sororities, while they do collect dues, many of them allowed their members to like go on. I'm not great at fraternities and sororities, so like go on inactive for the year because of COVID without any penalty, or like reduce their dues, or so that they all have all kinds of need. I would, yeah, yeah. I mean, to be frank, I think the cleanest way would be, in my humble opinion, right, as your advisor. Again, you can do what you deem fit. Would just be to give every recognized student org a certain amount of money, and leave it at that.
Okay, Imani, go ahead.
I was kind of thinking the same thing, like what Kansas was saying regarding like the clubs that have money that's been sitting there for years and really don't need money to operate compared to the clubs that do things like she said, like get like guest speakers and more events on campus. Isn't it possible that we could maybe like find the clubs that we know, I guess from past experience and from just what kind of clubs they are, to like analyze which ones will and will not most likely be asking for money, and then take those clubs kind of out of the equation but still kind of like reserve money just in case, but then but more like just focus on the clubs that we expect to ask money from us.
I guess, okay, wait, let me, who's next? Nayla Benet. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, as I was listening to Candace talk, I kind of like I didn't understand all the way. So I wasn't sure that the option like it could be possible to just give everyone $200. I kind of thought that was like an example, but I do think especially like listening more that if each org were to get $200, like let's say someone has $1,000, that's $1,200 they can use. So I think that that's the easiest way. And if we try and break it up into who needs it most and who gets what, it can become a little bit too subjective. And then an org who maybe doesn't get the fund can feel like, oh, then why don't they feel like I contribute enough to the university not to get this? So it can kind of become like, why do you feel that way about my organization? So I do feel like just giving everyone the funds equally and then seeing how they can utilize it best is what we should do.
Yeah, just a small point. I agree with that, but go ahead, Tori.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of note on some of the things going on in the chat. I know $200 might not seem like a lot, but a lot of these orgs that they could really do a lot with $200, or they won't even touch it, and that's perfectly fine. And I think it's important, a lesson to learn that you will all learn, especially as we go through, is that finance board's job isn't to micromanage what the clubs do with the funds, but just give them access to it. And picking and choosing orgs feels a little wonky to me outside of maybe just like club sports because they have a budget. That makes sense. Maybe if you do give it to them, it's just for marketing and merchandise since that's all you would fund them for anyway. But I think it's also important to remember that if they're going to ask for money anyway, they're going to come and ask for money, whether they get $200 or not. And um, you're going to have those orgs that you see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times a semester, and some that you never see once or hear from, but might still use that $200 for t-shirts or something like that. So I think it's important not to try to get too nitty gritty with what we want to control on them. Or pizza. Yeah, pizza for sure. There's going to be a lot of general body meetings with pizza since that's something you guys don't fund, if that's something you allow them to use the money for. But I think it's important just to remember that we don't want to micromanage the orgs too much or get into a place of who we think needs money more than others. Because who was that? Was that Nayla Benet that was saying that? You don't want them to kind of have a vendetta against the finance board for thinking, well, am I not as much need as other orgs?
Okay. Okay, yeah. So, going off the discussion, I just wanted to add like my 2 cents, I guess. I agree with everything that's been said so far. I feel like that might be just the easiest way to go about it, even like from like David Royer's perspective, because it's just so much easier for just everyone to just receive the same amount. And I mean, like it's been mentioned, it's really easy to just request funding through like Sahas, or like for spring they can always ask through the semesterly budget, and like all that, there are avenues to request money. So this is just like a kind of like kickstart thing to like help with like involvement fest, or like the beginning of the year to just attract more people and stuff like that. So I feel like, I mean, although they're allowed to use it for anything, I feel like having the funds being accessible to everyone would probably be the most fair way to go about it. Is anyone does anyone have anything to say like out loud?
So would this money be distributed at the beginning of the year if we decide to go that route?
Candace, go ahead.
So yeah, so I think what in relation, sort of backtracking a little bit to the funding stuff. So I think you need to like come to some suggested parameters, and then you got to vote on each of those, right? So like the options are, to give it to all of the orgs equally or to limit some of them. And so then you would vote on which one you want to do. And then if the vote is to limit some of them, then you'd have to say, okay, now we have to decide which ones to limit. And then you would do that. If it's like, no, we just give it to all of the orgs, then you can do that. Then you decide on that, and that's done. And then the next point is the point that Imani's making. Okay, so when do we give it to them? And when can they have access to it until, right? That's the second point. And then the third point I think that you need to decide is like, when are we going to tell orgs and how are we going to tell them? Oh no, that's the fourth. The third point is, are there things they can't buy? And the fourth point would be, when are we going to tell them? So you have to come to some consensus and voting on all of those points.
A question for you, Candace. Can I just should I write like the parameters under here, or is there anywhere else that I should write it before we?
Yeah, you can put them in the chat. So you could be like, so someone would have to motion for, I say you nailed the name. So someone would have to move into, like, you could do a straw poll, right? And do we know what a straw poll is? I know Rahman does. A straw poll is like just sort of getting a gut, like a feel of the room, right? It's not binding, but it sort of like gets like an idea of where people are standing on something. And then, so if you said, okay, so the straw poll's showing this, so I'm going to put that as a note. And then you go through the next debate of like, okay, when do we want to tell them they can have access to? Okay, you get to some sort of consensus, you do a straw poll, okay, take a note. So you take a note on all these things. And eventually, Shruti, you're going to have to create some sort of legislation for this.
Okay.
Because you have to codify the things you're deciding. And so, because you've taken notes on where everybody sort of is from your straw polls, you can use that information to inform the making of the legislation so that you can then present that legislation and sort of get everybody to vote for it.
Perfect.
You could also do this in committee, but you typically don't do that kind of stuff.
Okay. So going off of what Candace just said, I guess our first big decision to make is, do we want to limit it at all, or is it going to be equally split between all the orgs? And okay, Devin. Okay, for Louis. Okay, Rahman, I'm gonna make you read that. I'll read in a sec. Just wanted to say this before, so everyone has something to do. So do we want to split the money equally, or are we going to limit it to some organizations? So, for what Candace said, or based off of what Candace said, if we could just like write either limit or equal or something like that in the chat, I can get like a general idea of what we want.
Does it have to be equal though? Because usually, like, you might as well like have like student organizations that might probably need like more money than others. So like when it comes to like the amount of people that they have as members,
Got
or like it just has to be like an equal amount that they need to get.
That's where like the discrepancy lies, because I think everybody's like in agreement that if we give everybody, like all the organizations, $200, it'd be easier, because like it would just be money that they have and everybody will equally have the same amount. But at the same time, there's also other organizations that don't typically need money to run, and then there's organizations that have maybe like 40, maybe 30 people that need money to do their everyday activities. So it's kind of, I feel like it'll be I feel like if we were to like take the list of like the lead, like take the organizations that us as liaisons have and go through them and kind of like maybe look through the background or of the organizations, we can see probably needs the most money based on past history. But I don't want to make it too complicated for everybody, because then everybody will have to agree at the end of the day if the decision that you're making on the organization you're assigned to is the right one or not the right one.
Right. I mean, something that you can know, I mean, it will get like really complicated. Again, my opinion, but it might get really complicated, especially like going through and looking at how many people are in each organization, because there are 205 of them at least. So that's gets really complicated. And another thing that I completely forgot, what was I gonna say? Oh, another thing is, if money is needed for like some sort of conference or competition or any sort of like intercollegiate conference of any sort, then you can request money through like Sahas, if especially if it's needed like during the fall semester, or if there's other ways to like request money. It doesn't like we don't have to plan out where the money comes like we don't have to plan it out for them where their money comes from, because they always have the ability to come and ask us for money. Does that make sense? And correct me if I'm wrong if I'm saying anything wrong. Okay, go ahead, Tori.
Yeah, I just wanted to add too that the finance board's job, and this is probably something we'll experience throughout the school year, but organizations are required to be able to sustain themselves without finance board. So finance board's purpose isn't to make sure that an org is succeeding in, and let me phrase that in a way that doesn't sound as like harsh, but your job isn't to make sure that you're paying for their day-to-day functionality. So when an org is getting formed, they know that it's their responsibility to be able to pay for their day-to-days. So for example, if I'm going to make up a club, if we had a Rubik's Cube club come through, they know it's their responsibility to buy their own Rubik's Cubes, not finance board's responsibility. So I think it's important to keep that in mind, that this is also, as Candace said earlier, it's really fun money. This isn't supposed to be sustaining them. It's more of like a, hey, we're back. Here's some money to like get yourself off the ground with. Maybe, as I think Shruti said, some stuff for finance board if you want to get a cool poster from Common Vision, or a marketing package or t-shirts, but it's not really meant to completely sustain an organization or completely pay for an event that we want to do. So this is really just kind of fun money.
So just going off of what's in the chat, we have a few equals. If anyone doesn't agree with that, I guess you can like talk about it. Or you can like say me and we can like talk about it. If not, I guess we can just go through like normal like voting procedure, but if we want to move to a period of voting to talk about, or to, I guess, confirm that we want to make the SOAR fund equal for all organizations, then we can also do that. Okay, any seconds?
Second.
Okay, any objections? Okay, seeing or hearing no objections. Why is Siri here? Okay, seeing or hearing no objections, we can move to a period of voting. So the period of voting would just be I guess if we want to make the SOAR fund equal for all organizations, and no or nay if we don't want to make it equal. So we're not deciding on what the no is, but yeah, okay, perfect. So just say it in the chat, A or nay, and we can tally that up and note it down. Rahman, that's something that we have to discuss. That's like one of the 4 points that we had, or Candace had highlighted, and yeah. Okay, let's see how many people there are. 1, 2, 8. Oh, okay. Real quick, Amina, I don't think you can vote for like voting procedure in finance board generally. Okay, am I missing anyone? Should be 9. Okay, I'm not counting. So I guess everyone else said aye. Perfect. Right, okay, so that's moving on to the second point. So just general consensus, everyone, it was a unanimous aye vote for making the fund equal between all student organizations. So it would just be the total 45,000 divided by how many ever student organizations there are, which would be around like 200 something, and then that's how much money each organization gets. Okay, moving to the second point. So when do they have access to the funds? Let's see. Sorry. Oh, go ahead, nail the name.
I would say since it's fun money and it's kind of up to them how they use it, I don't see a problem really with giving it to them when we come back. So, they kind of know what they have for the semester and they kind of know where they can allocate it.
Okay, go ahead, Imani.
I really second just giving it to them at the beginning of the year, but just making it very clear to that organization that this is the money for the entire this is the money for the entire year, right?
This is just their like fun money for the entire year. So like, I mean, they can request any other funding if they like have any conferences or anything else they need. Then they can always request money through other regular processes like Sahas or the semesterly budget for spring semester.
Right. Just I'll just say we just clarify that part and just give it to them in the beginning of the year, and then they can be able to plan what they need accordingly from there.
Right. Okay. Go ahead, Ramon.
A quick question for Candace. When is like the earliest David Ware can kind of allocate the funds? Is that like in August or September or?
I mean, we are in the fiscal year 22, so I mean, he could have made the money available July 1st, but we were not ready for that. Um, so whenever you want to make it available and the process is tidied up with him, and just to clarify, right? What the way that it's going to work is it's not going to be in their carryover account. It's he's going to spend money out of the SGA account from that line item, that $45,000 pot, and every student org, he's just going to track every student org until they hit the limit, and then he's going to be like, okay, now you don't have any money left to pull out of this $45,000, because it would be, the student orgs aren't going to know the difference. They may ask why it's not in their carryover account, and he's going to just be like, because it's in this other pot, but you still have access to it, and it'll be fine. But from a accounting and logistical place, it would be a nightmare for him to have to transfer $200 to 200 student orgs. But so they can have, long story short, they can have access to it whenever you want them to have access to it.
Just like a procedural thing though, we would need to, finance board generally, we would need to, I guess, write a piece of legislation, vote on the piece of legislation, and only then can this be like taken to David Royer to get it done. So like, depending on the timeline of our process, that's when student orgs get it. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That is correct.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead, Devin.
My question actually has already been answered, from what Candace has said, so I think I'm good.
Perfect. Okay. So, Zach. So when do they have access to the fund is basically what we're talking about, and I guess going off of that, or yeah. So okay. So when we have access to the fund, we can make it a certain date if we want, or we could also be like, whenever we finish our process, like the second we finish and the second that David Royer is able to transfer or to give access, however he's going to do that, is the second that they get to access it, or we could set like an actual date, like August 15th or like something like that. So based off of that, does anyone have anything they want to say? So like August, what, like 31st, like the first day of school? Um, so okay, yeah. We could also do something along the lines of like maybe like a few days before, only because like stuff like Involvement Fest have like it's nice to have like a few days to plan for it, I guess. I don't know if that's like we could do that. Yeah, maybe like August 25th. Go ahead, Amina.
So like I'm part of like PAXA, and so I know a lot. I'm so sorry. So I'm part of PAXA, so I know we start planning during the summer, and so I know it's fun money, but it's also like good to know that we have it. So if you guys do decide to make it available during like I don't know, a couple days before. It'd be nice like for organizations just to know that they do have this money so that they can plan around it and not stress about like not having, but like it's just nice. It would be nice for them to know that they have it so that they can plan around it. If you guys do decide to plan to make it available like a couple days before school.
Yeah, that's I mean just looking at what the chat is saying as well as what I believe, I think that's a really good idea. Also, I guess just a question out to everyone as well as the advisors, but we could tell people about this like the second that legislation gets passed, even if they don't have like access to it, we can just be like, oh, you're getting access to it on like August 15th or August 25th, but like you just know that this exists. So I guess we could like send an announcement or like somehow let all the orgs know.
Yeah, I agree with uh, what you said. Like, I think, like, even if we do pass the legislation now, like maybe waiting towards like closer to when like classes begin, we actually kind of know like how the organizations will be able to run, and having like like out of date or multiple forms or fund requests, and like maybe it'll be better to like do it towards like late August, like have like the applications open, so then we can have all of the requests kind of in one area.
Okay, so yes, so based off of what Tori's saying, so we can announce it and it can be open to everyone. So we can do both of those on kind of combining with Neil Benet's idea on August 15th. Or, I mean, it all depends on when we pass legislation. So, I mean, this is something that we will have to like discuss in like after, probably near the end of the meeting, but like we might want to have a meeting sometime in the next week or two if we can get the legislation typed up and just to vote on it. So based on that date, we can announce it. So we could be like, we could announce it. Yeah. So, I mean, are there any dates or like, do we want to have separate dates for when the email's sent out and when the funds are being accessed, or are they the same date? I guess is my biggest question. Okay, I agree with that. Does anyone else have anything to like agree with, or do they agree with that idea that we should send an email out like probably a few days prior to just let everyone know that they have this or this exists? And going
Yeah,
off of that, is there a date that we have in mind?
I would say give them like a week before school. So whoever that, I'd say that Monday, even that Tuesday, considering we start school on a Tuesday. Just give them like a week to like just prepare mentally that they have this money coming in and they can use it to what they need to use it for, or just plan around it.
Okay. Tori, go ahead.
Sorry, I clicked off and couldn't like find my way back to unmute myself. Um, I would just something popping into my brain that we will probably also need to do is give Common Vision a heads up, because Common Vision, if student orgs are planning on going through them for using this, and this doesn't need to be like an in-depth convo, but just making sure they know, making sure that they're prepared to know student orgs might be coming in, because they might not have the capacity to do a lot for that many orgs at once if it's closer towards the end of August. So in my mind, if we can get this passed sooner, the sooner that they have access and the sooner Common Vision can start working on some of that stuff if orgs choose to go that route for Involvement Fest. Because I would hate to overwhelm Common Vision staff as well.
Okay, that's surely something that we have to consider. So, kind of just like going back to, yeah, I like the idea of the 16th. Again, just to get like a general sense of what everyone thinks, is the 16th okay for an email? I mean, again, that's something that is, I mean,
Wait,
like
sorry.
personally, the goal is to have legislation passed hopefully by the first week of August. And I feel like that's a general goal that we can maybe share and have a meeting sometime. Date for notice to orgs, I think. I think we could also go a little earlier. That's just my opinion. If we do like the 10th, I don't know what date that is. It's probably a, I can't think of days. No, it's like, I don't know. But 10th is Saturday, thank you. So like a ninth or something.
Yeah,
Um,
August 10th is. Wait, August 10th. I just asked Alexa and she said Tuesday.
oh, okay, Tuesday. Okay. So we could do something like August 10th for sending out an email. I that's just my idea because I feel like it might be a little, or we could also say that they have access once the legislation is passed. Okay, I like that idea where better too. What does everyone else think?
But will we need to meet like in a meeting before we pass the legislation?
Right,
So
because
that would be a separate meeting.
exactly. So I need to end up writing the legislation, and that then would be the main agenda item for our next meeting, so we can just get it passed and sent out to everyone.
Okay. Okay, that
Okay.
should work.
Perfect. So based off of the date when our next meeting is, I think that's when we should send it out. Again, is everyone okay with that? I guess just say yes in the chat if you agree with that, no if you don't. Okay, perfect. Just going off of what a few people said, we'll vote on this officially, but and then going off of that, the day we should send, or the day that the money should be accessible, we can stick to the 25th. We can do the 19th, any benchmark date like that. Any ideas?
I would say the sooner the better, I guess.
Okay.
When I still think the week, I guess it just really depends when we get the legislative like written up and we all agree and sign off on it. I mean, the earlier we can give them heads up, I guess is the better for them.
Right.
So if we're planning on getting the legislation passed by the 10th, then maybe the 15th, so 5 days after, we could possibly get it opened by then.
Okay. I guess yeah, 15th or 16th, depending on whichever day. Go ahead. Also, just a point to make to everyone, if you want to speak, just to maintain a bit more of order, just say me in the chat. And go ahead, Nail Benet. Okay, perfect. Okay, 16th. Are we generally just yes or no in the chat just to get a consensus? And then we can vote. Another one. Okay, perfect. Let's move to a period of voting. Any motions to move to a period of voting?
I
Um,
motion to enter a period of voting.
I second.
Any objections? Hearing none, we will enter a period of voting. This is like a combined thing of we agree that the second or like whenever we pass the legislation, an email will be sent out to the student organizations within a few days, and then the 15th or the 16th is the date that we should open up the funds for student organizations to like tell them that they have access to it, I guess. So if we agree with that, then that's aye in the chat. If not, if we think there should be different terms, then nay. I think everyone's voted. Are we missing anyone? Maybe. I think Aya maybe is the one we're missing. We're also doing, yeah, okay. Perfect. Okay, so I think we have everyone, unless I counted wrong. So that's the second thing that we have agreed on. We agree on that so they'll be informed about it almost as soon as we pass the legislation, and then student orgs will be able to access the fund on the 16th. Okay, moving to the third point that we have, how long do they have to access it? I believe in the beginning, when we were first starting to talk about this, Candace said that it would be easiest for David Royer if we could keep it open until the end of spring semester, but that is something that we can talk about further. So if you have any thoughts, say me in the chat. Also, I know this is running kind of late, so go ahead, Neil Benet.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's way easier on everyone if we just make it for a year because orgs change every year, whether they exist or not. So like, I think 1 year is just totally fine. It'll be easier on us as well.
Totally, I agree with that. Imani, go ahead.
I agree with Nia Benet. I think it's just easier on everybody just to do that. I do have a question though. I believe it was said in the beginning of the conversation, but I just can't remember. I can't remember exactly what was said. Um, so if they don't use all the money by the end of the year, does it kind of like roll over into the next year?
I believe it does not. Candace, do you want to take that?
Yes, correct. Because it is not getting put into, because it's not getting put into their carryover accounts and they're spending it out of your budget, if they don't use it, they lose it. And then it goes and rolls into your, yes, even more incentive. Because the purpose of this, right, is to help them it's to jumpstart them, right? And so they should be using it this year. That's the whole purpose. And not like sitting on it. So yeah, if they don't use it, they lose it.
Perfect. Thank you. I guess the next person is Amina.
I just had a question. So is this something that we're just doing this year because of like COVID and stuff, or is this something that we are going to continue to do like following years?
From what I know, it's a this year thing. It hasn't happened before. I don't know if this is something that we want to keep for the future years, but that's something that I guess we would talk about and vote near the end of this end of spring semester. Yeah, knock on wood. But yeah, it is unprecedented from what I understand. Okay, from what I've heard so far, we're in general consensus. Just say yes if you think that the it being until the end of, or I guess we can just move into a period of voting, honestly. I feel like we generally agree. So are there any motions to move to a period of voting? Thank you. Seconds? Okay. Any objections? Hearing or seeing no objections, we move to a period of voting on, on agreeing that the length of time that student orgs have access to the SOAR fund is until the end of spring semester. So I in the chat if you agree, nay if you don't. That was quick. Okay, one. I literally cannot count. One. I think we have everyone. I don't know, I think we have everyone, yeah. Okay. Perfect. So that's the third thing we agreed on. So until the end of spring semester. Now, the fourth thing. This is a bit long. But so what can student organizations spend the SOAR fund on? So something that Candace brought up earlier is that like obviously it's not allowed to spend it on like alcohol, and there are other things that are written out. I remember it was in the finance board like cheat sheet thing of what we can and what we can't spend money on. But some other convenience factors are obviously like Candace was talking about like technology because it's hard to track. So Does anyone have anything to say? If you do, say me in the chat and I'll call on you. Yes, go ahead, Tori.
So something that personally I would recommend is that it just follows in line with what the finance board already approves and doesn't approve. David already knows what those are, but I would probably recommend maybe adding the addition of being able to have, like Candace said earlier, pizza for general body meetings. So you all don't typically fund general body meetings. I shouldn't say typically, you don't fund general body meetings. So I think like the addition of that would be okay personally, because you just don't fund it because you don't normally just have the money to, because you're spending it on other stuff. I think that's one of the only like restrictions you all already have that is more so out of convenience for you versus what you can actually do. So that would be my recommendation, is just follow your own rules and add the addition of being able to do general body meeting stuff.
Yeah, I personally agree with that. Is there anything else, or is there anything that people want to add? Okay, just to get a general sense, do we agree with that? The general rule of everything that we normally, yeah, exactly. Same parameters plus anything regarding general meetings. So if we do agree with this, then we can move into a period of voting. So any motions?
I motion to enter a period of voting.
Second, perfect. Any objections? Hearing and seeing no objections, we can move to a period of voting on, I guess, agreeing that we would follow the finance board recommendations and also fund general body meetings, or that's what the SOAR fund can be used for. So again, I in the chat if we agree, no, nay if we don't. 1. So I think we're at 6 people right now. Think we might be waiting for one more person. No. Yeah, I think we're waiting on Aya. Thank you. Okay, perfect. So we agree. Okay, so we all agree. Perfect. So those are the 4 parameters, ideas that we have so far. I mean, if there are any other ideas or parameters that anyone feels like we have to discuss, I guess now would be the time to say it by just saying me in the chat, and we can add to it. If there isn't, I will be writing a piece of legislation addressing everything that we've talked about. Go ahead, Rahman.
You're fine. I just have a quick question that I need Tori to elaborate on quickly. So just for everyone's clarity sakes, so these orgs are getting these payments, SOAR payments of possibly 200 or more. But I believe that in order to access those funds, they have to contact David Ware to approve the funds that they're taking. Is that correct, Tori?
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah. So these orgs can't just like use these money on like anything that they want. There is a process already
Right.
implemented just to make sure that, the funds that they're using are actually being used for the right reasons, just to
Yeah,
make sure everyone's on the same page.
and that's how any of their carryover money works, even if they didn't get it from finance board. So there's always been a little bit of a buffer. So unless they're secretly keeping their own money, David is the one that has to buy everything for them, period. Which some of them do, correct? But yes, so if any org at any point in time ever wants to access their carryover account, whether it's money they've fundraised, gotten from SGA, it has to go through David.
Perfect. Anything else anyone wants to add? Like I was just previously saying, we will write a piece of legislation and have a meeting sometime soon, but let's move to if there's nothing else in terms of the discussion about SOAR, we can move to announcements. So, I mean, I think we have to move to a period of announcements. I don't know. I think. Yes. Okay. So, any motions to move to a period of announcements?
I'll move to a period of announcements.
Perfect. Any seconds? Thank you. Objections? If we're seeing none, we'll move to a period of announcements. If you have any announcements, say me in the chat. But before anyone says anything, I just have a quick thing that I want to say. So going off kind of about SOAR, we want to have a meeting, like we said, in probably the next week to 2 weeks. Let's try to, just looking at my schedule right now, let's aim for something around the first week of August, if not, like probably sometime after next Wednesday, so sometime between the 28th and maybe the 4th might be a good time to plan for a meeting. So we'll send out a when to meet for this, and kind of going off of that, if everyone could please fill out these when to meets as early as possible, because it's so much easier on Rahman and I and Candace and all the other advisors to decide on a time if it's done as fast as possible. And also going off of that, please check your Webex Teams often, and make sure you're responsive to any announcements or any when to meets or any questions that come up. So like if that means like just at least seeing it, if you can maybe like it or something along those lines, just to know that or just for Rahman and I to know that you've seen it and you acknowledge that it exists. So yeah, just keep an eye out for a when to meet in the next few days about a meeting in the next 2 weeks. Okay, does anyone else have any announcements? Go ahead, Rahman.
So I'm sure all of you, or at least most of you, have gotten the email about the liaison system. So one of the sheets has like the list of all the orgs with their liaisons. So just make sure that, if there's any revisions that I need to make, if there's any conflicts or anything like that, please let me know and I'll revise the liaison system. But just for now, be on the lookout. I'll have a template coming up soon just for you to kind of introduce yourself to your liaison. And we will be kind of going over a little bit more about what the liaison system is and what your role is as the liaison during the upcoming retreat, which is, I think, from August 13th through the 15th, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yep. Perfect.
So yeah, just one more quick point based off of Rahman's. Again, retreat 13th to the 15th. Make sure you're there. Make sure it's marked off in your calendars, and it's important. Yes. Also, Rahman, going off of that, please send the email to Mahira and Usman for the liaison stuff. And I guess this is new information for Mahira and Usman, but make sure you mark off yeah, it's a virtual retreat between August 13th and 15th, and it's pretty much mandatory that you make it. I mean, I know that Usman and Mahir have had like have fewer days to like prepare for it, the retreat. So like just to let you know that it exists and that it's pretty much mandatory that all elected representatives, or appointed in this case, make it to this retreat. Go ahead, Candace.
Two things. One, thank you to those of you who have applied and become woolies. I see you. Thank you very much. I'm not going to name who you are, but you know who you are. If anybody else wants to become a woolly, the applications are open until next Thursday. That's the day we decided to close them. So they're open until the 29th. Is that what that is? Oh my
Can
God.
can I add on to
Yes.
that? Because I recently applied to be a Willie like a while ago, but I didn't get an email or anything like back about it. So I just wanted to make sure if my application made it
Oh,
through.
you should let Courtney, can we follow up with who was talking? I don't know who it was. Was it Usman?
Yeah,
Yes. Courtney's gonna follow up with you. Okay?
no problem. Thank you.
Yeah, don't worry about it. We're gonna get you set. And then the other thing that I wanted to talk about, which was about the fall retreat. So I just wanted to sort of reiterate those dates, and then let you know some tentative like time stuff, because I know you're like, okay, great, that's the date, but like what time? So I'm think we are. Oh, my cat! Seriously, I'm in a meeting. My goodness. I think we were looking from like 10 to 4, 10 to 9 to 5, something like that. And I'm trying to find the document. Steering committee, if you can, do you know which document we're talking about? The one that Joshua sent out?
Yeah, wait, let me try to access it. Give me a sec.
Because I've only seen it in the email. Like,
That's the one that Mershad sent out a long time ago.
did Mershad send that out? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was literally from like June 6th. Let's see.
Oh no, I found it. It's when did he send this out?
Oh no, I think it was Joshua.
July 2nd. July 2nd is when Joshua sent it out. Okay. So right now we're tentative for Friday the 13th. Hey, starting at like 9:55, 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock, and then going till about 4:30. And then the Saturday starting at noon, with meeting stuff, and going until about 5 o'clock. I'll share this out with all of you.
I can share the screen
and
right
then
now.
again, oh yeah. Actually, I'm just gonna get the link, and I'm gonna drop it in the finance board chat. And some of the times on these may change, but like in terms of like what's happening when, but I'm pretty confident that the start times and the end times are gonna stay where they are. I'm gonna drop it in the finance board Webex room or Webex chat. So that like if there's stuff you need to handle on Saturday morning, you will have time to handle that. If there or on Sunday morning, like some people go to church, or some people go to the Church of the Farmers Market, which is where I go on Sunday morning. And so it's not like you're in front of your computer all day. Friday will be more of that, but Saturday and Sunday is the days are shorter and we start later. So I wanted to give that context, because I know you're like 13, 14, 15, that's 3 days. I got to hold all of that time. You don't have to hold all of it, but you do have to hold some of it. So I dropped that in the Webex, the finance board Webex chat, like not in this meeting, but in Webex Teams, which you all are a member of. I just added all of you to that if you weren't before. So that was my other thing. And also apply to be a Woolly if you haven't applied already. And I can't wait to see you. And that's it. That's all I got. Sorry, that was really a lot.
Okay. Any other announcements? So Rahman, I think, go ahead. If also is me. Oh yeah, exactly. Okay, so I don't know if you guys saw, but if you know anyone who is interested in being part of the executive board, there is a Google form that's out right now. And yeah, so make sure you send it to everyone, whoever wants to be okay, yeah. Whoever wants to be a part of it, I can put or I guess I think Mershad sent it to everyone, so just be on the lookout and like let anyone who's interested know. Anything else? So Webex. I'm not very fluent in Webex. Does anyone have anything to say? Okay, go ahead.
So if anybody needs help with installing Webex onto their computer or their phone, we can do that after the meeting. How does that work?
Oh, I already got it installed. I was just kind of curious about like how do I access the information about the fall retreat? Because that was like more,
Oh,
yeah.
so you have Webex installed on your phone or your computer? Oh, so there's two. There's
Oh,
Webex meetings and there's Webex Teams, which is like Discord. Do you have the Webex Teams installed?
I believe I do.
Okay. So then you should see that there are some spaces that you are a part of. One of them being Finance Board, UMBC SGA, or the UMBC SGA space. So I'm going to share my screen. Is that okay?
Yes, let me unshare.
Okay.
Unless it's not gonna let me. There. Okay.
So when you're in Webex Teams, there's these icons over here. If you click on this one with the 3 circles, you're going to see some they're like teams. So then if you click on UMBC SGA, you should see a bunch of spaces. You see all the spaces here? Are you seeing what I have on your stuff?
Oh, it's on my phone. I actually downloaded it and then I deleted it back then because I wasn't sure if I was using it right. But yeah, I'll
Yeah.
definitely look at it
Yeah,
after.
so you download it and you sign in with your UMBC credentials. So
Okay.
don't make a new account or anything. Like everybody at UMBC who has an email address has an account, and they need to get into these spaces. They need to log in with their UMBC credentials. And so once you get in there, you're going to get a bunch of messages and stuff.
Candace, he also just needs to be added to the space. He's not in the space yet since he was just confirmed.
I already added him to the
Oh,
space.
okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I just, I multitask.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, whoa, that was like, I was about to do that. And I was like, that's so fast.
I be like that. I be like that. Oh wait, there was somebody asked me
Love it.
something in here. Oh, never mind. Okay. Okay, cool.
Does anyone have anything to say while we're in the period of announcements? Also, if you can't think of anything right now, if you need to say something else, always the Teams chat exists, so put it in there. Everyone should be checking it, by the way, at least like once every day, if possible, or have notifications on or something like that. So that would be very, very helpful. Okay, if there is nothing else in the period of announcements, is there a motion to end our period of announcements and enter I don't even know what's next. Oh, a period of, or I guess to adjourn, a period of adjournment. Yeah?
Motion to end the period of announcements and enter a period of enter adjournment.
I second that.
Objections? Hearing or seeing no objections, we move to adjourn this meeting. And as a final roll call, I recognize that, oh my God, where's the participants? Okay, I recognize that, Amina, Aya, Devin, Fiona, Imani, Mahira, Usman, Rahman, and I are present, and our ex officio members, Candace, Courtney, and Tori. Also, I don't know if I can note this, but Naila Benet was here for a bit, but she had to leave early. But yeah, if there's nothing else to add, then I guess we are adjourned for this meeting. Thank you guys for coming. I'm going to end the recording.